Today we'll be reading and discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, text 15 and 16. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Let's offer our prayers to the previous acharyas and the Supreme Lord. They bless us that we may speak something that is relevant and uplifting to all of us, to all living entities. Om Agyan Trimidandasya Gananjana Sharakaya Chakshuramnitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manovishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahagarajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sachitam Sadvaitam Savadutam Rijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutare Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachadane Nirvishesha Sunyavari Prastyatati Shatarane Vanchakarpa Trubhyascha Kripasinu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavandayaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauravashe Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Verse 15. Mridanga Shankha Dharayascha Vina Panva Komukaha Tuntarya Anka Kantadya Nidur Tutumpyastata Mridanga Shankha Hiryascha Vina Panava Gomukaha Tunturya Ananka Gandhaya Nidur Tunturpyastata Mridanga Shankha Hiryascha Vina Panava Tunturaya Anakandaya Niturtundayastata. Anybody want to chant the Sanskrit?
Prabhu. Vedanga Shankha Bhescha Veena Panavago Mukha Dundhurya Naka Ghantadya Nidur Dundhu Bhayastatha.
Anyone else?
Hare Krishna. Mridanga Sankhya Bhairyascha Veena Panava Gomukha Dundurya Nakat Gandhatya Nedu Dundubhayastata.
Anyone else?
Mridanga.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Prabhu. Okay. Mridanga Shankha Bhairyascha Veena Panava Gomukha Dunduri Anaka Gandhatya Nedu Dundubhayastata.
Yes, Chinanaji.
Mridanga Sanka Bhairyascha Veena Panava Gomakaha Dhunduri Anaka Ghantadaya Nedur Dhundubhayastata. Thank you.
That's everybody. While the Lord was departing from, sorry, let me go word for word. Mridanga, sweet sounding drum. Shankha, conch shell. Bhiryaha, brass band. Cha and Veena, stringed band. Panava, a kind of flute. Mukaha, another flute. Kunduri, another drum. Anaka, kettle. Kanta, bell. Adyaha, others. Neduhu, sounded. Dundubhayaha, other different types of drums. Tata, at one time. Translation. While the Lord was departing from the palace of Hastinapur, different types of drums like the mridanga, dol, negra, dunduri, dundubi, and flutes of different types, the veena, gomukha, and peri, all sounded together to show him honor. Start of the Sankirtan movement. Text 16. Prasada Shikara Udaha Guru Naryo Dikshaya Bhavishu. Sorry, let me change this. All right, let's start over. Forgive me for that oversight. Prasada Shikara Udaha Guru Naryo Dikshaya Varshu Kusmai Krishnam Prema Vrida Smite Kshanaha Prasada, palace, Shikara, the roof, Arudaha, ascending, Kuru Naraya, the ladies of the Kuru royalty, Dikshaya, seeing, Varsuhu, showered, Kusumai, by flowers, Krishnam, upon Lord Krishna, Prema, out of affection and love, Vrinda, Smita, Ikshanaha, glancing with shy smiles. Out of loving desire to see the Lord, the royal ladies of the Kurus got up on the roof of the palaces and smiled with affection and shyness. They showered flowers upon the Lord. Report by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shyness is a particular extra-natural beauty of the fair sex. So I'm reading from the actual Srimad Bhagavatam, so if it's a little bit different, then forgive. Shyness is a particular natural beauty of the fair sex, and it commands respect from the opposite sex. This custom was observed even during the days of the Mahabharata, i.e. more than 5,000 years ago. It is only the less intelligent persons, not well versed in the history of the world, who say observance of separation of male from female is an introduction of the Mohammedan period in India. This incident from the Mahabharata period proves definitely that the ladies of the palace observed strict restricted association with men. And this, instead of coming down in the open air where Lord Krishna and others were assembled, the ladies of the palace went up to the top of the palace, and from there paid their respects to Lord Krishna by showers of flowers. It is definitely stated here that the ladies were smiling there on the top of the palace, checked by shyness. The shyness is a gift of nature to the fair sex, and it enhances their beauty and prestige, even if they are of a less important family or even if they are less attractive. We have practical experience of this fact. A sweeper woman commanded the respect of many respectable gentlemen simply by manifesting a lady's shyness. Half-naked ladies in the street do not command any respect, but a shy sweeper's wife commanded respect from others. Human civilization, as received of by the sages of India, is to help one free himself from the clutches of illusion. The material body of a woman is an illusion because actually the body is made of earth, water, fire, air, etc. But because there is the association of the living spark with matter, it appears to be beautiful. No one is attracted by an earthen doll, even if it is most perfectly prepared to attract the attention of others. The dead body has no beauty because no one will accept the dead body of a so-called beautiful woman. Therefore, the conclusion is that the spirit spark is beautiful, and because of the soul's beauty, one is attracted by the beauty of the outward body. Vedic wisdom, therefore, forbids us to be attracted by a false beauty. But because we are now in the darkness of ignorance, the Vedic civilization allows very restricted mixing of women and men. They say that the woman is compared to the fire, and the man is considered to be the butter. Butter must melt in association with fire, and therefore they may be brought together only when it is necessary, and shyness is a check to the unrestricted mixing. It is nature's gift, and it must be utilized. Krishna, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out using the beauty of a woman as an example, but we understand that there is attraction in this material world of the opposite sexes. One in a woman's body may be attracted to men, and men attracted to women. The same applies to both, that we're meant to not fall victim to this clutch of the illusionary energy that the body is beautiful, whether it's male or female. It's irrelevant because, well, it's not irrelevant for us personally because we're going to be attracted one way or another, whether we're man or male or female. But the idea is to give up such illusory attraction and recognize that the attraction is to the spirit soul, not to the body. Because Srila Prabhupada nicely points out here that a dead body is not so beautiful. I don't know how many have seen a dead body, but in America, the custom is to decorate the dead body. In India, you take it down to the funeral pyre and build a pyre. But I can't pretend I have any practical experience of this, but from what I understand and what I've experienced in the West in America is they take the dead body and they make it like look presentable, and everybody comes to offer their respects because they call it open casket. The body is there and it's decorated with makeup and everything that make it resemble what it looks like, but there's no energy there. You don't feel any connection, because that you may have some past remembrance of the connection due to your association with the personality, but this just a lump of matter to be direct and relatively direct and sensitive, but that lump of matter may be our fathers or mothers or brothers or sisters or friends or teachers or whoever it may be, but the idea is in Vedic civilization, our goal is to see beyond matter, but to see everything in relationship to Krishna. So I was thinking about this when I pre-read this verse. I noticed the word prema. I immediately thought of Lord Chaitanya, because we just observed his appearance day, and from what I understand, we have some nice programs at the temple this afternoon. Some plays and dramas and cultural programs, some bhajans about Lord Chaitanya, and kirtan. So I thought maybe to speak a little something is Advent, if everyone's has the blessings of the assembled devotees. That is a cue to the assembled devotees to please give their blessings, to speak something on Lord Chaitanya.
Haribol.
Don't have your blessings, there's no possible way of saying anything relevant, because the mercy of the Vaishnavas is what makes us able to do anything.
Please speak.
Of course you may speak. Oh, you said I may speak. I thought you wanted
No, I said please speak. We're listening.
Hari Hari. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami gives a very beautiful verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3. He actually quotes this verse twice, but we're going from chapter 3, text 4. Narpita Chirim Charat Kananaya Vinir Nakala Samarabaitu Munanajala Lasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Punata Sundarutiti Kadamba Santi Pitaha Sadahara Kandade Swarachava Sachinandanaha. May that Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachidevi, be transcendently situated in the innermost core of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he is descended in this age of Kali, by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. Krishnadas Kaviraj continues. Verse 14 of the same chapter. For a long time I have not, this is Krishna speaking, as he's thinking in his transcendental abode, engaging in transcendental pastimes with all of his different devotees in Vraj Bhumi, Vrindavan Dham, in Goloka Vrindavan. For a long time I have not bestowed unalloyed, loving service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving sentiments, the existence of the material world is useless. He continues on verse 19. I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the age, Nam Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name. I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing the four mellows of loving devotional service. So Lord Chaitanya appears to give great benediction. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodido Uddhaya Pushpavantro Chitrashanda Tamonudao. Offer my respectful obeisances unto Shri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. This is the wonderful benediction that Lord Chaitanya came to give such unalloyed service to the inhabitants of the world. And he did so through the medium of the congregational chanting of the holy name. So not only as practicing bhaktas or devotees of the Lord, servants, those to chant the holy name together, but we also chant the holy name privately, japa, right? So there's Padma Purana gives a beautiful verse that Srila Prabhupada gives a beautiful translation, almost purport in the translation. Nam Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Das Vigraha Puna Shudho Nityam Mukto Vanina Tvam Namanamino. Holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful, bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's name is complete, and it is the form of all transcendental mellows. It is not a material name under any condition. It is no less powerful than Krishna himself. Since Krishna's name is not contaminated by the material qualities, there is no question of it being involved with Maya. Krishna's name is always liberated and spiritual. It is never conditioned by the laws of nature, laws of material nature. This is because the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are identical. Kali Kala Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. Krishna descends in the age of Kali as his holy name. So from verses like this, we understand that Krishna's name and Krishna himself are non-different. So when we chant the holy name of Krishna, we are associating directly with Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam later will come to one verse that talks about how when one chants the holy name, the eyes fill with tears and the heart throbs with love. And if one does not experience thus such things, then it is understood that the heart is still framed. Srila Prabhupada in the purport talks about that if one is not experiencing these symptoms of love for Krishna upon chanting the holy name, then it is due to offenses only. Very powerful statement. So the acharyas give us some safeguards How do we taste the holy name of Krishna? Rupa Goswami explains while he's chanting that when the holy name of Krishna, these two syllables, Krishna, appear on my tongue, I want millions and millions of tongues. And when they appear, when they come into the holes of my ears, I want millions of ears. And when that name, those syllables enter within the core of my heart, it dances in ecstasy. So we see when a devotee who is completely absorbed in this chanting, they cannot stop chanting. Lord Chaitanya, when he was manifest in this world, would chant non-stop. So if we're not experiencing such taste, which I can say for myself, I am not, as you can see, no tears are coming, that it is due to offenses only, Srila Prabhupada says. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was instructing, I think it was Sanatana Goswami, I can't remember which, but he starts describing the offenses to the holy name. We'll go through them. I'm gonna grab a book so to make sure I don't skip any. The first offense, the holy name, is to blaspheme the devotees of the Lord who have dedicated their lives to propagating the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Vaishnav Ninda, the offense, blaspheming the devotees, criticizing the devotees. From what I understand, this is one of the two greatest of the 10 offenses to the holy name. Lord Chaitanya describes it as the mad elephant offense. I've never seen a mad elephant, but I've heard about it. Has anybody ever seen a mad elephant? I hear that it is very scary sight. I'm sure you've all seen an elephant. When we were in Mayapur, we saw elephants. They have an elephant. They have two elephants. They're very big, very solid. I've never seen them mad, but I saw them playing and just picking up branches with their trunk and like throwing them. So Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya, he describes that the heart of a bhakta, the devotee, should be like a garden. That heart, we have the seed of bhakti, the bhakti lata bija, he called it. One little sprout. And by some shraddha, some faith, and by the association of sadhus, and by the process of chanting, hearing, remembering the 9 processes of devotional service, that creeper begins to sprout and blossom and bloom. We water it very carefully by the chanting of the holy names, the association of the devotees, the different processes, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, worshiping the deity. So he told to put up a fence and guard this very carefully, this creeper, because it's very delicate. So when you see weeds, the weeds of lust, anger, greed, pride, illusion, criticizing, these different weeds will sprout. And if you're not careful, you may start watering these weeds and they will choke out. Choke means like I can't breathe. Choke out this creeper of devotion. So you must pluck out these weeds. This is our cultivation of the qualities of a Vaishnava. Cultivating the good qualities and rejecting bad qualities. This nice analogy, the good dog and bad dog. That's each of us within, we have the good dog and the bad dog. And depending on which one you feed is going to be the one that is louder. If we continue to feed our bad dog, the dog that encourages us to engage in sense gratification, to engage in criticizing others, to engage in these types of activities, it will become very loud and grow. But if we refrain from such things, we feed the dog that increases our spiritual consciousness, that dog will become louder. So this is like plucking the weeds. But if we engage in the offenses, especially this first offense, it is like taking a mad elephant through your garden and it smashes everything. I've heard stories of mad elephants coming through villages and just destroying everything in its path. So Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya says, do not engage in such activities of blaspheming the devotees. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it has a very powerful statement. Let's see if I'll read it. Give me one sec. I've just been reading this recently. Sri Gaurasundar lifted both his arms and called out to the world at large. Be free from slandering others, criticizing others, and chant the holy name of Krishna. Aninduk, this word aninduk, free from slandering others. If you're a ninduk, if you do not criticize and carefully chant the holy name, I pledge firmly that I will deliver you. He continues, I tell you that there is one truth. If you commit any aparad unknowingly, and therefore if you never ever commit ninda or criticizing others and glorify Lord Vishnu and the Vaishnavas, then these aparads will leave you. This is the only means to get out of this trouble. Even if you perform crores of penances, you will not be cleansed. So Lord Chaitanya, through this Srimad Bhagavat, the counterpart of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Vrindavan Das Thakur, he very emphatically in many places speaks very strongly about not criticizing others. So here we're talking about blaspheming the devotees or criticizing the devotees. And Lord Chaitanya takes it a step further where he's speaking about not even criticizing others. So this is a great obstacle on our path of awakening the prema that Lord Chaitanya came to give us. That we are sitting here and we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My dear Lord, please engage me in your service. I bow down my head at your lotus feet. And then we go on and say, oh, this person, what nonsense. They're walking around doing this or that, whatever it is that we do when we get in a mood of wanting to criticize others. But it is like saying, oh, Prabhu, you're so nice. I like you so much. And then the next moment spitting on their feet. because Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 6, I think it's 6:30. I grabbed the Bhagavad Gita because I don't know these verses memorized. I'm not so scholarly. One who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me. I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. He continues, such a yogi who engages in wonderful service to the supersoul, knowing that I and the supersoul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Where is the supersoul? The supersoul is in every single living entity. So if we criticize others, not only we're also criticizing Krishna, because Krishna is present in all living entities. He is also, and all living entities are his energy. So to free ourselves from this tendency of fault finding, Lord Chaitanya is encouraging or ordering the devotees who are striving for this purity to constantly glorify the devotees in Lord Vishnu. And there's no need to criticize anyone, because everyone, and technically, if we speak on the highest platform, everybody is a servant of the Lord, being a spirit soul, where Jiva Shakti, the energy of the Lord. So one may think, oh, but what about the, in order to preach, we must, see some difference between devotee and non-devotee. This is okay, but we do not. We may see that we may. What's the words I want to use? You say see some. See, I don't want to use the word difference, but how does Srila Prabhupada explain between the Madhyam and the Uttama? The Uttama is seeing on this highest principle that every living entity is spirit soul, and thus I offer my pranams. But the Madhyam, the middle class devotee, he has distinction, that we have those engaged in material activity and those engaged in spiritual activity, and they reciprocate with them, accordingly. So, but that does not mean that they criticize. You rarely hear Srila Prabhupada criticize anyone, even though he spoke very strongly against engaging in the, as we read in this purport, engaging in the sense gratification in the material world. So, but find not. It is one thing to point out an activity, and another thing to criticize a behavior. So we must guard very carefully in this this respect, that to criticize any devotee is a grave offense against the holy name. And the only way to gain freedom from this offense is to glorify the devotees and to beg forgiveness from the devotees that we have spoken ill against. Lord Chaitanya, he gave through his pastimes, I guess you could say, in one respect, gave a very wonderful example of this. And it kind of fits into the third offense. So to consider, let's go with the second, to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent to the names of Lord Vishnu. So Lord Vishnu, as we know, is this supreme personality of Godhead. And to consider the demigods on the same level is an offense against Lord Vishnu. So Lord Shiva is a very special personality, and he is compared to yogurt, where Vishnu is compared to milk. So he's more of like a transformation of Lord Vishnu, which, but we do not accept Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma or any of the other devatas on the same altar of Lord Vishnu. But we respect them as great personalities. As we were just discussing, we respect all living entities. But we recognize the difference. And 3, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master, or Srila Prabhupada said, or to consider the spiritual master an ordinary person. So it's kind of 2-part thing. And there's a wonderful example, Madhavendra Puri, one of our great Vaishnavacharyas, is known as the root of Lord, the seed or the root. Is the mood that Lord Chaitanya came to give started with Madhavendra Puri when he appeared. So he was like preparing the road for Lord Chaitanya to dance across and distribute this Nam Sankirtan, Prem Bhakti through Nam Sankirtan. So he had 2 disciples, Ishvara Puri and Ramchandra Puri, who were attending while he was on his deathbed. Well, he wasn't on his deathbed. He was very sick though, and he was in performing the pastimes of leaving his material body. So I want to use same material body, but it's not so good to see the spiritual master in that way. So anyway, his body was sick, and he was performing his pastimes of leaving this world. Let's say it like that. And thus he was crying very in separation from Krishna. And he was speaking one verse that is praised throughout our Gaudiya tradition as very deep and esoteric. I don't know it by heart, but it's very sweet verse. You can read it in Chaitanya Charitamrita in your own time. But the point that we're coming to is he had 2 servants. Ishvara Puri was very attentive to his Guru Maharaj and would chant the names of Krishna in his ears when he was feeling separation. And Ramchandra Puri was thinking that his spiritual master was an ordinary person. So he preached Mayavad philosophy. If you're feeling so sad and you're in such separation from Krishna, then give up this idea and focus your attention and focus your mind on Brahman. And Madhavendra Puri, for a devotee to hear such things, it's painful to the heart. So he chastised him and told him, I don't ever want to see you again. Because of displeasing his spiritual master, he lost all of his good qualities, basically. And what he ended up doing was wandering around and criticizing others. And to the point that in Ishvara Puri, he so wonderfully served his spiritual master that he became the guru of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya surrendered at his lotus feet. And by the instruction of Ishvara Puri, Lord Chaitanya started the Sankirtan movement. Lord Chaitanya didn't start preaching the Sankirtan movement, the process of bhakti, until he was ordered by his spiritual master. This is the importance of performing our service through the spiritual master. When we begin our daily puja, when we begin our archana of the Lord, we perform such a service in the mood of serving through the Guru. So there is no possibility, there is no place where our Guru's seva, Gurudev's seva, the service of the Guru, of the spiritual master, is ever renounced or ever given up, because it is through the mercy of Guru that we receive Krishna. By the mercy of Krishna, internally, we receive the spiritual master. And by the spiritual master, externally, we receive Krishna. So when we approach Krishna, we always approach through the spiritual master, because the spiritual master is pure. He is very dear to Lord Krishna. We offer our pranams. I offer my pranams to my spiritual master because he is very dear to Lord Krishna. So to think of him as an ordinary person, him or her, and to disobey the orders is a grave offense to the holy name. And Ramchandra Puri, when he came to Jagannath Puri, all he did was blaspheming the devotees, constantly criticizing everybody. Everyone was very eager for him to move on. And when they did, they made a big feast for Lord Chaitanya. So those pastimes are also in Chaitanya Charitamrita and very, very wonderful. You can hear a more realized and eloquent person speak them later. So we're running short on time, so we'll just go through these offenses: to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version, because they reveal the holy name, reveal the glories of the holy name, and they are filled with the pastimes of the Lord. To consider the glories of the chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. These glories from Padma Purana, this Namachintamani Krishnas, and all the other verses that glorify and the holy name, to think this is imagination. How can these two syllables, Krishna, contain everything transcendental, everything? But we don't speak like that. The fault in not experiencing the transcendental qualities of the holy name is not in the holy name, but in ourselves. So there was one point I forgot to mention when we were speaking on criticizing others. If the tendency to see faults in others is present, we can understand that we ourselves are flaked with these faults. So I think one poetic Vaishnava said, we are honeycombed with such faults. So if we see faults in others, it's because we have those faults in ourselves. And some will say, oh, but what about all of the injustice? How can we not see this injustice and do something about it? But the injustice we should see is the injustice in ourselves. And we should correct the injustice within us. And only then can we even begin to correct any injustice within this world. So it is the devotee's responsibility to correct ourselves. And sometimes we may have as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur put it, We may have the burden of finding faults in others so that they can correct themselves. But don't take that burden on voluntarily. He kind of spoke like that. So find the faults in ourselves, rectify ourselves, not in others. Hare Krishna. To give some interpretation of the holy name. To commit sinful activities and the strength of chanting the holy name, the seventh offense is the other one that is one of the two most grievous of all offenses. To think that we can commit sinful activities and continue and be freed from the reaction because we are chanting the holy name. This is great. This is greatly offensive. The power of the holy name is so great that any kind of sinful reaction or sinful tendency can be eradicated from the heart of a devotee, of a living entity, by chanting. And the grievous sinful mind of the conditioned soul may sometimes think, well, I have the cure or whatever, the loophole in the material energy. I can commit sinful activities and chant the holy name to get free from them. This is not how such things work. This is a great offense, and that we should not have this mentality. But we should strive. Sometimes, as we're chanting the holy name, and we're becoming purified, different material desires begin to come up, and we may pluck those weeds out, and they may sprout again due to our previous conditioning. But this is not the same. That this is a natural part of purifying the heart. That when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that sometimes these tendencies, unwanted tendencies, or nartanavritti, unwanted qualities they will come up. It is inevitable. From the cleaning process, you start cleaning a very dusty place. What happens? Dust starts floating in the air, and then you wipe here, and then you come back to that place, and there's again dust settled because it came up and then it settled down. So this is the process of chanting, of cleansing the heart. It comes up and then settles down, and comes up and settles down. And we keep chanting, keep associating, keep hearing, and eventually all of those things go away. And then firm faith is situated in the heart. We begin to have a taste for chanting the holy name. Affection begins to awaken. We chant the holy name and we feel great love. All of this comes eventually. We must just continue to chant, continue to associate with the devotees, especially like-minded devotees, and guard against thinking that we can free ourselves from our committing sinful activities by the strength of the holy name. Sinful activities are eradicated, but not when we do it on purpose. Consider the chanting of the holy name of Krishna to be one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which is offered in the Vedas as fruited activities, karma kanda. It's not a ritual to chant the holy name, but is the life and soul of the devotees. To instruct a faithless person on the glories of the holy name. Sometimes we will speak such glories and they may use it against the devotees. they may not understand. Better to, as Bhagavad Gita says, not to disturb the mind of the ignorant, but we must present the process of Krishna Bhakti in such a way that people can accept. Not everyone will accept in the same way. That's why Srila Prabhupada would say things like, creatively preach this Krishna consciousness movement. Use your intelligence to preach. And to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names, and to maintain some material attachment, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. So, it's simply put, to receive the holy name and chant without complete faith that we will someday experience all the gifts that the holy name has to give, and to maintain. So sometimes we have a material attachments, and then sometimes we are holding on to material attachments. So it's important to give them up. There's a story of the sadhu. Their disciple was, Guru, the material energy is holding on to me, will not let go, and I cannot become free. She's got hold of me. He says, okay, let's go for a walk. And then the Guru approaches a tree and grabs the tree and says, let go of me, tree, you are holding on to me, let go. And the disciple says, what are you talking about? You are holding on to the tree. He says, exactly. You are holding on to your material attachments, not that Maya is holding on to you. So something to contemplate. And then Srila Prabhupada, he concluded the 10 offenses with saying that it is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in the Hari Nam Chintamani, that this is the source of all the 10 offenses, to chant inattentively. Because if we are inattentive in our chanting, then we will be inattentive in guarding against one or more of these offenses. So when we're chanting the holy name, it's like I call Jai Sachinandan, and then we start talking, and then I'm not paying attention to what he's saying. He's like, you called me to discuss, and then you're not even listening to me. Is he gonna even want to talk to me anymore? So if we call Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, and then the mind is thinking about, I've got, my gosh, he's going over class. Oh my gosh, it's already 7 minutes. Sorry, forgive me for taking your time, more time. But, I've got this to do, I've got that to do. And, you're basically saying, I don't have any time to even reciprocate with the holy name. I'm here chanting it, but my mind is completely somewhere else. So on this extension of Guru Pranim Day at the temple, we can remember his glories, remember what he came to give us. And very attentively follow the instructions that our gurus and Srila Prabhupada came to give. And if we are fortunate and sincere, then this prema that the ladies of Hastinapura felt for Lord Krishna upon seeing him on his chariot, or at least getting onto his chariot as he leaves, this prema will also awaken in our heart. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you for tolerating me and allowing me to do some little service to the assembled devotees. I pray, please, if you have any questions, we can take if we want. I don't know if we have time. Sorry for going over.
Hare Krishna. Yes, if devotees have questions, please go ahead. And Prabhu is asking questions or reflections, I guess.
Of course, please. Something that inspired you in these words that were spoken, either in the purport of the verse or any of the verses we spoke from Chaitanya Charitamrita or anything. Sounds like everyone wants to go. They're like, all right.
I thought that was nice how you picked up on the word prema and then expanded into Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and about the holy name. I could tell that you're very attracted to the holy name. It came out. It seemed like you had millions of mouths to speak the glories of the holy name. Unfortunately, we just have one pair of ears to hear, but that was very nice. Something very, I've heard, and I think you and I have talked about this, that I really like this. Satyananda Maharaj, I think, takes it from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary, that the 10 offenses are kind of like negatives, right? Like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And he said something very nice is to do the opposite, instead of criticizing the devotees who spread the glories of the chanting of the holy name, the devotees who've done that, instead of criticizing or disregarding the spiritual master's instructions, glorify the spiritual master's instructions like that. I think that's very practical. Human mind, I think, gets attracted. Well, the mind, Bhujan Prabhu says, it gets equally attracted to negative emotions just as much as it does to the positive emotions, right? In this Japa book. But I think it's nice to contemplate the opposite as well, because it's a kind of the medicine for the the essence of. I've heard that the essence of the 10 offenses is mistaking that which is spiritual for material.
Yeah.
And so the opposite will help a lot. I should remember that. But
yeah, it's a good point. We oftentimes we get so caught up in things that we shouldn't do that we forget the things that we should do. And the things that we should do are the things that get us closer to Krishna. We focus so much for example, we focus so much and we must follow the, 4 elective principles. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. But we forget that, we should be chanting attentively or something like that, right? We should be glorifying the holy name, that we should be, giving up association that is not favorable to, Krishna Bhakti. That we should be accepting favorable association. I think Rupa Goswami often would give both sides, right? Yes. Don't do this, but do this.
Yeah.
Very important point. Thank you, Prabhu, for bringing that point to light. That's an important thing to remember.
Thank you for talking about the holy name. I think another thing I really found interesting in this purport in the verse 16 is Srila Prabhupada's kind of emphasis on shyness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because in modern society that's considered a weakness, because it's one's that conscious, that's why somebody's so shy, because the strength, you're not able to project the strength of your personal self onto others. But I think Srila Prabhupada makes a nice point that, it's a natural quality of the soul to be subservient, and, shyness and tolerance go hand in hand, because a sense of humility within it, like somewhere that in some psychology book that shyness has a kind of almost is considered by some people to be like an illness. But some psychologists says it's actually not an illness, it's actually a positive force in society, because that person is more sensitive to the needs of others, and and is able to put their own desires, maybe set the effect that their desires will have in others. And so when I think of that, then I think, what Srila Prabhupada is talking about is very nice. And I was reading once, this was long ago, about a conference that that some, I think, Vaishnavis were having in Russia, that there was some discussion about how, and I think it was just for Vaishnavis, and the idea of chastity. And Vaishnavi was saying, this chastity idea comes from tolerance and shyness together, and linking that tolerance in the Grihastha ashram is something that a woman a Mataji can particularly cultivate, and it gives them great spiritual strength to be able to tolerate, specifically in a Grihastha ashram. It's a natural quality that leads up to greater spiritual strength. Anyways, I'm rambling, but
no, that's a good point. Another thing while you were saying is, I was thinking of is something I wanted to speak on that I guess Krishna didn't want me to, is the Trinada Pisuni Trinada verse. But the other thing too is Bhakti Vijay Purna Maharaj one time in Mayapur, he gave a very nice, powerful class, and he was, it comes in relation to what you're saying is, well, kind of, so that we oftentimes, it's always spoken about, how a woman, Mataji, female, whatever, their role of being chaste, being this or that. We can all quote, what Shastra says how a woman should be. But then he said, how many of you can quote and recite the qualities that a husband should be? And hardly anybody could raise their hand. And like, even me, like, I can't think of, I could think of a few things, but like, what is the duty of the husband? It's something that we tend to overlook, but which is a very important aspect of being, as grahastas, what is the duty of a husband? We expect, so he said, everyone wants their wife to be Sita, but they don't want to be Ram, right? So it's an important thing for us to, and it kind of goes in this theme of, that I was kind of that I've been contemplating and trying to, share, is being internal, and what is our duties. Like, we can, look at this or that, but what am I supposed to be doing? What is my duty as a husband? We have both husbands and wives on this call. From what I can see, everyone on the call, I think, is married. But so we have, what is our duty? Srimad Bhagavatam explains both sides, but oftentimes the male's mood is, oh, I want my wife to be like Sita, but are we going to be like Ram? I think that was a very powerful point that Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj put forth to devotees. I was discussing with some devotees last night about it. So anyway, that something that we can contemplate and do our own research on, and make sure that we are living examples of what, of being the best we can be. Anyway, anything else from anybody? It's now getting quite late, but if you have anything you'd like to share, please do so now. There's glorious devotees here with fulls of realizations, way better than mine. You can please share something. Jai Sachinandan shared so much.
Thanks, Prabhupada. Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture, Prabhu. Especially, I think I also mentioned in the chat on stressing the importance of the 10 offenses to the holy name. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for this wonderful, enlightening lecture, I would say. And one thing which I really like about Prabhupada, Prabhu, in the 15th verse, if you see, there are different names for drums, dhunduri, and everything. But Prabhupada, when it comes to mridanga, is sweet sounding drum. Everything else is just drum. So now kind of this bias towards love towards mridanga, I just thought it was a very peculiar thing, which I noticed. But thank you, Prabhu, for your wonderful lecture, Prabhu.
That's what mridanga means, sweet sounding drum.
Yes.
Like you. I think, yeah, it's very sweet. Thank you for
yeah. But yeah, Prabhu, thank you so much for your wonderful, wonderful lecture, Prabhu. And speaking about Lord Chaitanya on this wonderful, we just happened, Gaur Purnima just happened. So thank you so much for continuing that particular thought. Speaking about Lord Chaitanya. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, should we? I think we can go ahead and end.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Thank you, Bāla Nitāi Prabhu.
Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bāla Nitāi Prabhu, for taking time today to speak on this. Just like Bāla Nitāi Prabhu was saying,